Okay, this right here is the type of movie we need more of. I've officially found my first great horror movie of 2025. So in the brand new survival horror thriller Ash, Rhea wakes up to an abandoned space station where all of her fellow crewmates have been viciously killed. She has no memory or recollection of how this happened, any of the events that went down, and throughout this movie you are going to piece together the events as her memories come back of what actually happened. This is a sci-fi survival horror thriller filled with paranoia. This is the type of movie I feel like doesn't really get made anymore. And as a huge fan of survival horror games and old school movies like Event Horizon, I loved this movie. But it's not lost on me. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who don't even like this movie, let alone love it. I feel like to appreciate and love this movie, it takes a certain type of moviegoer. You know, I see so many different movies. I almost value an experience more than a movie at this point. This movie felt like a cinematic experience. It kind of felt more so like I was living out a ride at Universal Studios than watching a fleshed out movie. And I appreciated that. I know it will bother some people. Yeah, let's talk about the things I like. So first off, the world building in this movie, absolutely insane. For such a low budget movie, this movie is like sci-fi personified. If you love these like large world building epics where you're on a foreign planet, this movie does it better than just about any movie I've seen recently. This movie looks absolutely gorgeous. This movie probably has my favorite cinematography of the last couple of years, if not for Nosferatu. I love the way this movie looks. Very fitting too, because the movie follows Rhea as her memories are coming back to her. That's how the story fleshes out, and that's how the movie feels to watch. It feels like this very weird and vibrant fever dream, kind of like it's all pieced together and spliced a certain way, like it doesn't actually make sense. And again, I enjoyed it for that. Paired with one of the coolest soundtracks I've heard in years as well. It has this really cool 80s cyberpunk synthwave combination that's in nearly every scene. It's like overbearing at points, but again, I loved it for that.
Where am I? Who am I?
Very rare do we get a movie that has such a unique soundtrack and score they are so committed to. This movie just feels like unapologetically sci-fi. They went full sci-fi. And when you pair that unique soundtrack with the way this movie looks and the color contrast, you get this very weird, surreal experience, like you're in space with these people. Almost every scene in this movie is like pink and blue or a combination of the two, and it just makes you feel like you're a part of this world. From the very opening scene, a ton of visceral images popping in front of you, a bunch of jump scares. If you're a big fan of things like Doom and Dead Space, definitely keep this one on your radar. When you pair it all together, it kind of felt like an old school laser tag arena from the early 2000s. You have strobing lights, Technicolor lights. Oh yeah, sticking with the strobe lights, I really like the thing they do in this film where the lights are strobing in and out because the space station's kind of shutting down. And a lot of movies do this, but this movie sticks with it for like 2 or 3 minutes at a time with its scenes, which makes it again feel really immersive to the fact that you're on this ship. Because as you're watching an entire scene play out, it's going from pure black to scenery to black, and it keeps fading in and out. I really liked like almost every technical choice this movie made. But it's not lost on me. This movie will definitely be way too weird and kind of abstract and slow for a lot of people. This movie kind of moves at a snail pace at points, but I did not mind. Again, for me, it was not so much about the destination, but the journey. I was having a really good time with even the most simple things in this because it felt so unique compared to a lot of horror films I see nowadays. But this is definitely going to be a pretty slow moving movie to some people. At 90 minutes, I did not mind. I thought it was a brisk watch, but I can already see the complaints that not a whole lot happens for the first hour or so. And while I was enjoying all of this movie because I really liked the technical aspects, I thought the third act of this movie was just batshit insane. Definitely reminiscent of some of the games and things I mentioned earlier, but I thought the certain big moments they were building up to were really satisfying, kind of nightmare fuel, honestly. I totally realized at this point I forgot to even talk about the leads. The two leads in this, Eiza González and Aaron Paul, are both great in this. They're like the only people on screen for the vast majority of it, but they're both really committed to their roles. Always thought both of them are pretty underrated. Kind of cool to get to see them both do horror. To my experience, this is the first time either of them has done that, but they're both great. So pair that with the fact I think this is a compelling mystery and it looks and sounds really cool. I don't have too many complaints about this film. For me personally, it all really worked. If I have to really nitpick, and this is very minor, I would say I can acknowledge the movie is kind of a slow moving movie. It's a slow burn. Whether or not it pays off for you, that's always the question. Then I guess on the surface, this is a pretty derivative tale. Like as the mystery unravels, the answers we get, we have seen that done before. But as I already said, the process of getting there was so enjoyable to me. I didn't mind it because I thought the horror elements were effective. technically, it's just a beautiful movie. So for me, it was more about the journey than the destination, but I understand if that payoff is not worth it to you, why all of this just kind of feels like a waste. But for me, even though I've loved other movies this year and I've gloated about them, this is the best pure horror movie of the year so far for me. And if you know my taste, it might surprise you because this is kind of a little bit out there. Basically, everything about this movie worked. This is one of Shudder's best originals, in my opinion. I think this movie is incredibly unique, incredibly ambitious. I know I'm going to be in the minority. This movie's probably not going to work for a lot of people, going to be way too out there, way too slow. But basically, everything worked for me. I thought this was like the most unique looking movie I've seen so far this year. Soundtrack was awesome. History, while it's kind of generic on the surface, I think is satisfying enough. Absolute nightmare fuel at certain points. I thought Ash was awesome. So if you guys did get around to seeing this one or you're planning on checking it out when it comes to streaming in a month or two, comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Did you love it as much as me or did you just think it was kind of eh? And as always, comment down below. Let me know what you think. I love talking movies with you. I will see you in the next review. Peace.